It's going.
That was fast.
All right. I have no idea how we know if people are there, but hello, everyone. We hopefully are live streaming. Welcome to our AICP Midwest live panel discussion about getting back to work and looking ahead to where we're going from here. It's been very sad to not see everyone. I'm so happy to see these faces here of our panelists. And unfortunately, we can't see you. First off, I wanted to introduce my co-host, Craig Duncan, who for me is over there.
Hello,
Craig,
hello.
who are you and where are you from?
I'm Craig Duncan. I'm the managing director at Cutter Studios. I'm having a horrible hair day, so I had to wear my hat. I mainly wore this to piss Tom Duff off. So Tom, this one's for you, buddy.
And I am Lisa Masor. I'm the executive producer of Tessa Films here, and I am the AICP Midwest president. And I just wanted to start out before I introduce our panelists to kind of just say why we were having this panel today. I think all of us during this time have been working very hard, obviously on the agency side. They are working with their clients. On the client side, everybody's figuring out what is next. And they have been working on the AICP side. Both the production companies and post companies have been talking on a national level almost daily about what it's going to be like to get back to work and all of the safety precautions that we're going to be taking to keep everyone safe. So I did want to assure you that we are talking about all of those things. And a lot of you who have signed in had questions about permits. When can we shoot again? When are we going to open up again? What are all the safety precautions? And I promise you we will get to some of those discussions, but we do not have all of the answers today. I wish we did, but we wanted to start this discussion no matter. So basically, as we go along, some of you have already discovered the little chat. You can feel free to chat questions to us. We will try to get to them as we go along. We may not get to them all. Just so you know, this is our first discussion and our first panel. The AICP Midwest is hoping to have future ones. Particularly, we will have one coming up that speaks more about the crews and the safety of the cast and the crew coming back to set and what that's going to look like very formally per department. But this conversation is to talk a little bit more about the work that is being done on the agency side to have some collaboration, because we're going to need to produce the work that's coming up. So I wanted to kick it off by introducing our panelists, and actually I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So we'll start with Christine Saldana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Saldana. I'm a creative director at Burrell. I'm actually an understudy for Lewis Williams, and he has very big shoes, so I'm not going to be able to fill them at all. But that said, I'm very, very happy to be here and be part of the panel. My main clients currently are Coca-Cola, Kellogg Foundation, and the National Park Foundation. And I also work on the agency's political practice team, and boy, are we getting ready to trumple.
Excellent. I heard clapping. I swear to God, there are people here watching this in another area. I'm at my office. Next up, Melissa, where are you from?
Where am I from? Hi, everybody. First, let me say thank you for putting this together. And I miss you guys. I miss everybody. It just makes you realize how lucky we are to be in this community. I am the executive producer at VML Y&R in Chicago and work in the Chicago business, as well as all the clients throughout our network. And thank you for asking me to be a part of it.
All right, Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Ross. I am head of production at Allstate, where I've been for just over 2 months. And prior to that, I was 10 years at the agency formerly known as McGarry Bowen, working with that handsome man down there, Kurt Fries. So I'm happy to be here, actually.
Well, that's a good intro. We could go to Kurt next.
So hi, my name is Kurt Fries. I am the CCO of Dentsu McGarry Bowen. I've been the CCO of Dentsu McGarry Bowen for about 12 hours. Prior to that, I've been the CCO of McGarry Bowen for the last 3 years, and at the agency for about 7 or 8, working with Steve and the likes of them. But thank you for having me. It's an interesting conversation. I mean, we have a ton of clients that have been affected by this, and very, very different and unique ways. And it'll be good to talk about how each of them maybe are dealing with the issues in front of us. So thanks for the opportunity.
Great. Next up, Keith.
Hey everybody, I'm Keith Jamerson. I'm an executive producer at DDB. I've been there 3.5 years now. I work primarily on the Molson Coors business and the many beer brands that fall underneath that DDB works with. Really excited to be here. It's been an interesting couple of months, as I'm sure everybody can agree. It's going to be nice just to kind of share what we've been going through on our side and even hear some stories from others in terms of how different agencies and clients are handling what we're currently dealing with.
Great. And Gail.
Hi, I'm Gail McCormick. I'm an executive producer at Ogilvy. I work on a variety of accounts there. Been there since about 2012. And I echo everyone's sentiments that it's really lovely to gather, at least in this forum. I miss people. I miss being on set. I miss craft service. And I think this will be a great conversation, and look forward to many to come.
Excellent. Well, I will kick it off with our first question. And Gail, I'm going to direct this one to you to start. How has work been the past couple of months?
Lonely and busy. I think that we've been in an arc. I'm sure my experience is not alone. I think we've been first started out with a lot of uncertainty and reaction. And I think, we've sort of hit a groove and learned how to answer our clients' needs, how to work together productively. So yeah, I think we are hitting our stride as a community, as an agency, and as a department.
Great.
I mean, to say the least, it's been different, right? And not only is it different because of the virus, each and every opportunity, every situation is different. I mean, like I was saying, we have clients that have been devastated, by this, and it's really crushed their businesses. And we have other clients who are doing okay because of it, and not to name names across the board, but that runs the gamut. And each and every one of those people have different, really, really unique needs. So in an odd way, it's been exhilarating, and I hate to use that word because I don't mean it to sound positive, but it's been a challenge, and really has made us think differently about each and every one of them and their needs, and how we can best really support them and make sure that they all not only survive but prosper. So it's been different, to say the least.
I think it's been quite interesting. Besides the challenges, it's really been sort of what I call the great equalizer, because our clients are working the same way we are. So, it really is true that we're all in this together, and somehow there's much more humanity in terms of how we're working. I would say for myself, I feel like I'm working in the newsroom. I mean, the deadlines are just, everything is so time sensitive, because literally everything that I've been working on has been COVID-19 reassurance. And so we've had to be really agile and fast on our feet, because stuff's got to get out like that day. So that's been really, really challenging and hard to deal with.
I think that's an interesting thing that you said about sort of the equalizing, because the irony is we're far apart, but we're in each other's homes. And just like when you see inside, your clients' homes and their kids running around and their dogs barking. And so as serious as the business is, it's just been really interesting to have that kind of level setting, and everybody sort of understanding, when people are running around in the background or they're reaching to soothe their baby or something. We haven't really had that before. So, yeah.
But from that standpoint, I hate to jump in, but from that standpoint, it's like the relationships are getting deeper with clients, right? When you have the opportunity to look inside their homes and see how they live, and you see their children and their dogs and stuff, there's a level of trust that starts to build up there. And I think because we're all in this situation together, we need that trust. And I think, there's been more leeway. There's been opportunity to kind of like tackle problems together, and it's okay to be a little wrong sometimes, because right now nobody's got the right answers, right? So it's been interesting from that standpoint too. I think my client relationships have gotten deeper and deeper along the way. You know?
I think we're really connecting with them as people and not as clients, you know, and kids and cats get to weigh in on our ideas.
As usual. Yeah.
I do feel like there's been a lot more just kind of open communication during this time. I mean, it is challenging with everybody working remotely, but as Christine mentioned, you're kind of working on newsroom type deadlines. I think everybody from the junior employees to the senior executives making final decisions kind of understands that, hey, we all need to be on the same page and working together to get things done. There's just less process hurdles and more people willing to really lean in and kind of work through those challenges that might normally take a little bit longer to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are more immediate.
Hey, Lisa, I just wanted to say, from, all the AICP, chats that we've been having, talking about shoot guidelines, I wanted to definitely get into covering some of that. I was wondering, I know you've been doing a few shoots and things. Do you want to sort of kick off a conversation about, what shooting in the age of COVID feels like?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk with some experience. We're actually shooting today, doing a remote shoot, our third, and it's definitely different. And I'm sure a lot of you can speak to this too, but we are learning as we go, and every shoot is different, at least the ones that we've done. Started with one with a director just 100% in his house, basically just had his girlfriend helping him, and we remote zoomed in to oversee it and had checkpoints in for the client during the day. But everybody wasn't watching every little detail on that shoot. We've had previous shoots where the clients have wanted to be all on and be on Zoom all day long, just like they would be in Video Village. And that's a lovely thing, but I will say that the curtain then isn't there. Video Village, you're sometimes there and we're working and we're setting up, and we kind of don't want you to see that. But now if you're on Zoom all day long, you are seeing that. And especially as we are hindered, directors are shooting by themselves in their house. Oftentimes the DP is outside remote, helping them to light, and, they don't really have a crew, at least at this current time. So it's really been interesting and a challenge, and luckily people are rising to it. Have you all had some remote shoots during this time as well?
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 shoots so far. For Oscar, we actually did a live action shoot where we actually partnered with a director that we had a relationship with, who, had friends who lived in the location and was willing to reach out to people around them and ask if they would, be willing to participate from a socially safe distance, and it worked beautifully. I mean, the first and foremost, we're going into every one of these with, safety is our number one concern, and in that case, we were able to pull that off, because I think that's what the concept kind of revolved around, was the idea of bringing a backyard barbecue to the front yard, but doing it in a way that was socially responsible. So that really paid off nicely. And then today we have a tabletop shoot in town, and they're running the gamut, but all of them, first and foremost, I mean, is who attends, how do you attend, how do we do this in a way that is smart and safe, because first of all, we can't hurt anybody, but we have to think about the agency, and we have to think about our clients and the reputations involved there as well. So
well, that's something we talked about. We sort of gathered a little bit a few days ago just to chit chat, and it's like, as these things open up, I think the question will be like, what can we do versus what should we do right now? Because, there's everything on the table. And I think that things are going to be changing, like conceptually, like from, what do we have to do to respond to the business, to when we get into more conceptual ideas and a little bigger shoots, and like, what are going to be the touch points to make everybody comfortable and to make sure that it is the right time to send that message that this is what this brand is doing at the moment.
Right.
So just something I've been scratching my head about.
We did the Comcast team at Burrell. They just did a shoot it started out as a print shoot, and the photographer basically just filmed his own family, and then they decided to make it into video as well. So they had the photographer acted as the director and filmed his own family, and the team, you know, did wardrobe sessions and all of those things via Zoom or Skype. And they checked in once in a while, but basically the photographer just stepped up as the director. And I know that that's not typically what we would do moving forward, but you know, we're just trying to be creative, getting things done and pivoting as we need to.
Yeah, we haven't done too many. We've leaned into animation a bit more, but my first big production for Allstate was the chairman at home shooting himself on his own iPad. Propped up on books. It's a good thing that he's a voracious reader, apparently, because it was just done very quickly, and it was done as, you know, if I ever hear, you know, can you be scrappy and nimble, I think this will lead off my reel of scrappy and nimble. It was the lowest and quickest kind of production value you could get, but it served the purpose, and it was a guy at home, sheltering at home, talking to people sheltering at home, and so that was the quickest and easiest way to produce that I've ever done. But we're exploring everything else, you know, that runs the gamut.
Cool. Hey, Lisa, I've got a couple of questions in the chat that I'm gonna read. Okay, this is from Scott Kemper. It says, please talk about boots on the ground, how the shoots are working, where do you shoot, which states, cities, are you getting permits? And then Lindsay put out there, how are you making decisions about who attends the shoot? And can you talk about managing the client's expectations on these remote shoots? Anyone want to take on any of those questions?
I can take on the practical one, which, to be quite honest, I think the only state 100% right now that is saying you can absolutely come here and shoot is South Dakota. Florida is opening back up, Texas is opening back up, but there are still restrictions on, you know, the amount of crew that you can have, and it has to be teeny tiny. Like I'm calling what we are in right now the slow crawl back to normal. So the shoots that have been done so far, at least on our end, and it kind of sounds like this way for you guys too, have been in people's homes, on private property, people shooting themselves, or directors remote directing in to direct someone else. Christine, we had one job that was exactly like yours that you described, that an agency had hired a still photographer to do a campaign. Then they kind of came up with an idea for a live action portion of that campaign to kind of continue it. And instead our director remote directed in, but worked with that still photographer to direct how the live action would look and to direct, I will say we actually had talent in that one. But people are working in a socially distant manner. If there are crews, which most of the shoots so far have not had them, but if there are crews, everybody's working socially distancing with masks on, gloves when appropriate, hand sanitizer everywhere. And these are when I say crew, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like we're talking 3 people, you know, like there is not a crew yet. I think we will then slowly graduate, which hopefully as home sheltering eases up, we will graduate to up to 10 people. And when I say 10 people, that's everybody. That's cast, crew, you know. So I hate to say it, but can clients come? No, I'm saying no right now on the safety front. As we get to opening up a little bit more, maybe a couple from the agency, but everybody else will be remote in. And on the crew side, just so you all know, on the union side, everybody's been talking about this. They are ready to come back, remote video village. People are ready. And so far we've been doing it via Zoom in different ways, but secure, like VTR, going to secure sources. There's multiple companies that have cropped up to fill this need during this time. So on the production side, we're ready to go.
Yeah, we've done a few shoots. One similar to you guys have mentioned, where it was a local DP in his house with his wife as the talent. And then we also did a shoot that was a bit larger where folks were in their homes. They recorded QuickTime and Zoom and cut together or something. So I think we're slowly seeing sort of a crawl back to what you're describing, Lisa. And I think, you know, to the point that was made earlier, I think that the clients are really collaborative and understanding how we can do things. And I think the expectation to attend a shoot is very far out at this point for clients and agency, you know, to a large part.
To kind of echo what Gail's saying, you know, as producers, I think we always like having all of the answers to everything. And what I found has been effective is just working with real transparency. You know, we're dealing with something that we've never dealt with before. Information is really changing daily. You know, what you concept today that's not possible to shoot, it really might be by next week. And I think it's just important that everybody really be on the same page, and producers in our community remain diligent in providing information to help find the best solutions kind of within this current space that we're in. And I found clients to be very receptive to that, as long as we're just clear on here's what we know, here's what we don't know. We're going to keep filtering you information as we can, ultimately with the goal of making the best work that we can, no matter what the climate is at the current moment.
Right.
Well, and I think what we said earlier was like, there's such a variety of are the clients on the front line, were their businesses, like, are they profiting, or are they, you know, how are they reinventing themselves, and how can we help them along in that journey, and you know, what's that going to look like, because we don't even know when some of those things can happen. So I feel like we've had so many contingency plans, to your point of like, do we have the answers? I feel like now we have to have more answers. Like, well, if it happens in August, or if it happens in October, you know, or where's the product going to come from? Or, you know, I just feel like there's even more contingencies than we usually provide as producers.
And we have to share them, I think, you know, and we're not used to sharing all of the flow chart in our head. And well, if this happens, and I feel compelled and responsible to share all those plans, because some of them have financial implications, some of them are risk management issues. So, you know, to Lisa, you spoke earlier about not having a filter. I think we're all in that boat to some extent or the other. We're showing a lot of people behind the curtain that we wouldn't have, and it feels more humane, and certainly a little more vulnerable. But I think it might be an upside of all of this in the long run.
Yeah, I
Some
think
of these changes, some of these changes may end up benefiting the client. I mean, Lisa, I imagine if you're bidding something today that's going to shoot in 3 weeks, that bid may be outdated by the time you get to the shoot, or at least there may be more options or opportunities come shoot day that you now can introduce or offer up to the client, which I would hope. You know, I think clients are flexible in that way now, and understanding that, you know, the way it was bid just a few weeks ago may no longer be the way the world we're living in. So some of those changes could end up helping along the way.
And I think there'll be an education which we'll lean on our production partners too, in terms of like, what will the implications be of crew can't share equipment, different wardrobe situation. Like when we get to the nitty gritty of like, you know, what is a set gonna, and you know, what's the pacing gonna be? And there's talks about like lighting and then leaving and waiting. So I feel like the whole, you know, there's gonna be a lot of education to really, you know, and these guidelines you sent out are very thorough and robust in terms of like every little department. So we'll look to you to help us figure those, translating all that.
Yeah, and very quickly, because I'm sure people are starting to ask questions about that. Yeah, the very brief, you know, look, number one, for those of you who don't know, if you go to the AICP website, you can see the start of what we are calling the AICP guidelines to get back to work, both in offices, in post houses safely, and of course on set safely. And we are calling them guidelines, and we put them on a website because they will be continually changing. But the nut of it is that scheduling will be different from here on in. Today, you know, like the shoot that I'm working on, Melissa, you brought up wardrobe. Well, you know, we all picked things, and we picked things that we thought we could get in time or whatever. because everything is so last minute, and like you said, something happened on Tuesday and that changed, and we needed to get new wardrobe by Thursday, which was today, and you think no big deal, but places are not open. Amazon is not delivering. You just cannot get things. And even in Target and in Walmart, where you can order and supposedly pick up, our poor, prop person went to Walmart and promptly got a text saying that 3 of the 4 things that she was picking up were canceled. So this behind the curtain, like, we are in constant contact now, because you have to really just be nimble and figure out option B, if you have to. But that's going to change as things open up, thankfully. On set, when you show up, let's pretend that we're doing this with a small crew as opposed to a director just in their house and it's a real shoot. The scheduling of the day will start with medics on set. And this is, again, everything's guidelines, but I know our company and most AICP companies are going to be strict about safety. So we will have medics on set. We will be scheduling people in waves. So lighting, or probably art department, will come in first. They will get their temperatures taken. They will get a little safety briefing from the medical staff. Locations, just to assure all of you and some other people who asked this question earlier, we will be sanitizing the locations before we even shoot there. We in the AICP Midwest have already looked into services that are like hospital level sanitization certified services that will go into these locations before we ever arrive, do a thorough cleaning. We will then have one of those people on set with us to constantly be wiping down surfaces, have hand sanitizers available. So we will be as safe as we can humanly possibly be as far as that goes. So after lighting, or after art department, then comes lighting, then comes the DP and the talent, and obviously hair, makeup, wardrobe will be in a separate place altogether. So we will need more space for everything, and we will need more time. But in general, all of that will follow suit, and then people will take their lunch breaks when they take their lunch breaks, but it won't be all together anymore.
Yep. Hey, real quick, we're getting lots of questions about insurance and liability, which I know are, might be more boring than some of the questions we want to get to about creative and other things. But I think since we're having so many, I would love to hear like what your clients are thinking about liability and insurance, with, this COVID. I mean, people are talking about having waivers signed. Are you hearing kickbacks from your clients that, hey, when we do get back into production, or even for the productions that we're currently doing, what are the insurance issues? And I'd be really curious. We've also had several questions about unions. Are unions relaxing some of their standards right now during this time? So I know it's a lot. These things are flying by me here, so I'm doing my best. But so I'll just throw that out to the group. Waivers, insurance, unions.
I can jump in at least on the production company side, and you all can disagree. And there's definitely, I imagine, guidelines and liability for each client, and each agency is going to be a little bit different, and we're all going to need to work together. But I think we can all agree, sadly, there's no insurance company that's going to be giving us insurance against COVID-19, period. It's just not going to happen. Steve, unless you know something different.
No.
Yeah, I think that's not going to happen. We can ask people to sign waivers, of course, and we will do that. But, I think we can only go forward being as safe as we can. And if Home Depot is open right now and grocery stores, people are figuring out how to get back to work. And although we're all certainly scared about it, I think we can only be as safe as we can be, and put that at the forefront. But on your side, have your clients been worried about safety and coming back and how it's all going to go?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, obviously, it's an insurance company, very conservative, very concerned about being uber compliant. We will be one of the last ones to come back to work and to shoot. I think that's just the nature of this brand. So, you're going to have certain clients that are going to be very risk averse, and rightfully so. and I happen to work on one of them, but you guys work on a variety of other things. So I open it up to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the need, right? It's like if they need to get out there with communications and marketing materials, then they're going to lead. Other clients have clearly said, I'm going to follow, and I'm going to see what happens, and I'm going to and go from there. Whereas, we have some who are forging ahead, but all of them are putting safety as a number one priority. I can guarantee you that, absolutely positively. So it's just how do you manage it, and back to the question around who attends shoots and stuff like that. We've had one creative attend, and even I try to discourage that. It's just not something I want to be putting people in the middle of right now. So
Yeah.
No.
I mean, we still have, 100% travel ban, and, there'll have to be a really big reason to go all the way to the top to, for that to not happen. And I think clients are, like you said, there's relationships, and, that'll open up some other channels of trust and communication that will be different and translate to who's on set and how we're making those decisions.
And just as far as safety goes, I did want to get into a little bit about post-production and editing and graphics and audio. Obviously, we have many members out there from AICP Posts that are curious. I'm just, really curious, how has all the remote work been going? When do you see yourselves maybe coming back into facilities? Are there things you're learning through this process that you might, have moved forward? Because, I can tell you from a post-production standpoint, with myself and many of my friends in this industry, remote has gone fairly well, a lot better than we thought. But I'd like to pose this to all of you. I'd be very curious to hear what your experiences have been like, and what are the good things, what are the bad things. So feel free, jump in.
From my perspective and what I'm hearing from my teams, it's going great. It's going better than great. People have been incredibly accommodating with their schedules and time, and have made it a priority to make sure that balls aren't dropped and deadlines aren't missed. We haven't had a hiccup at all. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, I personally miss the scrum. I miss the getting in there. I'm a one or two a frame guy. I can make a big difference, and I want to go in there and I want to shove it left and I want to shove it right, and I want to hear this option and that option. And I miss that because those things can't happen as much real time anymore. So it's taken a little bit longer, and it feels like you kind of put out the order and it comes back to you. It's like ordering food right now, versus being in there and being in the kitchen and kind of making things. So I missed the opportunity to create with people who I trust and respect, and I think are great creators. So as soon as we can get back in safely, we'll be back in safely.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it has surprisingly been going really, really well. It's funny now, I've got everybody's cell phones, which cell phone numbers which I never had before, and I'm calling editors after hours, and they're calling me, and calling clients after hours, and all of that is great, but I totally agree with Kurt. I can't wait to get back and be in the same room, because that's what creativity is all about: collaborating and being in person. And hey, I miss going to the editing houses, and I miss lunch.
I was going to say that my husband actually brought me lunch today and presented it, and I was like, oh yeah, that used to happen. So yeah, again, we are in this business because we have definitely, like working with people and have a passion to learn from all the people that we sit in a room with. And, it is part of why we just have such an amazing community. And I can't wait to get back. I think it's also just like the exposure for producers and creatives, and especially creatives coming up and producers coming up, to learn from the people who are sitting at those consoles. To me, that's a big miss if it, until we go back. So very grateful to how smooth the workflows have definitely been going, but I'm anxious to get back to.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree with that. Everything has been going really well. And, you know, balls haven't been dropped. Projects have been going really well, hitting schedules, looking really good. But one of the things that I miss, particularly if this period of time continues, is just the meeting new people and discovery aspect of post-production. You know, there's a lot of teams that have a comfort level with people that they've worked with for years. So working remotely, you're not going to lose too much of that synergy because they've sat in the room with that person for days, months, years. So they have that shorthand. It's tough to bring new people in the mix and expect that same type of synergy, even with talented people. So while it's been working, and I think it's going to continue to work well, should this period continue to extend, you know, I do worry a little bit about our ability to continue to push boundaries in terms of the people that we work with and how teams would be open to that. And if that would be detrimental to the challenges we're suffering in terms of quick turnarounds and things like that.
Yeah, because I think that affects, you know, those happy accidents that occur based on a little bit of time and a little bit of just, you know, the synergy that occurs in a room. And, you know, somebody who might not be on the call having an idea. And as you say, I think our trusted partners are doing a great job. Everybody's working super hard and keeping things going. But I think we lose some of that possibility if we don't get in the room together. I love you. I love, Kurt, you missing the scrum. It's a great analogy. And I think it speaks to our collaborative nature in this business.
Yeah.
And I miss that.
I also think it's one of the things that, you know, helps us push ideas apart from one another in the industry, right? It's like we're all kind of dealing with the same problem. We're all trying to look for the same solutions. And pretty soon, all our work is going to start looking and feeling exactly alike. You know, my ads are going to start being shot by somebody who has kids and a couch in a living room, and somebody else is going to be doing the same thing. It's like, and how do we work to like find solutions that are able to pull things apart and to make them unique and interesting in our own? So I think it's all part of it. And it's like, it is the happy accident. It's like, what mistake can we make that's going to make us brilliant, you know? And so I think we need to kind of somehow find and replicate that somewhere in this new world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I think, and just to add, the cutting is going great, and especially the creative part of it, although we do miss all the accidents that we're talking about, and I think we all love the collaboration. What's hard is dealing with the minutia, the versioning. If you have something like that where normally you could just hunker down for a couple of hours in an edit room together with your spreadsheets and basically make sure every spot has the right tag and the right end card and the right voiceover and just check off the boxes. And now it's just posting back and forth, getting a link and saying, oh, sorry, that one was supposed to have this. That takes forever now. And it's just the nature of the beast. It's nobody's, you know, that's the kind of stuff that happened in the room, but in the room you could fix it in a minute. And now it's just a lot harder doing it virtually. But it's remarkable how well things have been able to go in the post world, and kudos to everyone involved. Can't wait to get back though.
I can tell you, we miss you all as well very much. When I talk to all of our editors and all the folks out there, I mean, you know, that collaboration, I mean, you know, hey, we've made it work, the Zoom stuff, everything's working. I know some of our, you know, folks definitely don't miss the commute at all. They like that they're gaining a few hours of the day, you know, being able to just roll out of bed and sit in their pajamas. But I think everyone is missing the creative collaboration, and I think they love having people come on, you know, down into the room. Even Kurt, we miss Kurt.
Friday afternoon beer, don't you miss? A Friday afternoon free beer. Yeah.
We all miss the snacks, Kurt. Seriously. Right?
Exactly.
Big one. And it is sad that no one brings us craft service when we're all working, other than Melissa's husband, who's so gracious. Sadly, no one's doing that in my house, but you know, one can dream. You know, I did want to talk about the work a little bit, and I don't know if this is an appropriate time, but some of you have been involved with some important work, and Kurt, I know you talked about some of the stuff you've done. Christine, I feel like you came out with a campaign real fast that Craig and I and you were kind of talking about right before we came on here. For those who haven't seen it, do you want to describe what you came out with regarding Jason?
Yeah, so I mean, as everybody's been saying, and everybody's been really busy for all of our clients, but there's one campaign of note that we really created proactively as a community service effort, and it was initiated internally at Burrell. So, you know, as everybody knows, you know, Burrell is, in addition to what we do for our clients, you know, we really are always committed to giving our time and voices to improving the lives of our communities that we serve. And we came across this this true story about a bus driver, Jason Hargrove, in Detroit, who went on Facebook to really basically do a public safety announcement message, because he had been driving and this woman was coughing and sneezing on him. And so anyway, 11 days after he posted this message, he dies of coronavirus, and it was just heartbreaking. And as everybody knows, the Black community has been hit really hard. 70% of the deaths due to COVID-19 in Chicago are Black. So we thought we would use this real life story as a, you know, a life or death kind of call to action. And the way we did it was we took, so it's user-generated footage. We used the footage from his post. We reached out to his wife. His wife was absolutely touched and wanted us to share the story. So we basically crafted a campaign around his post. And it, as I said, it was just really a safety message to the community. And but we went beyond just television. We actually did we did social media, of course. And speaking of television, a lot of the Black stations just picked it up pro bono. We were thrilled that Communication Arts wanted to feature the work and wrote a story about us. So that was fantastic. But the fact that it was, again, a real person, and the power of his message was just, you know, a chilling call to action. And I literally cried with every, I mean, it's the truth, you know, it was really Lewis's idea to share the story. And we worked really hard to get this done. We got it done in 3 days, and it was on the air.
Yeah, that was a very quick pivot, which was amazing to get that out so quickly.
And of course, it helped that we have an internal editing, amazing. He's just an uber editor, and we were able to, you know, turn it around internally, you know, quicker as a result.
Great. So Kurt, I think you brought up something that I think talks about a lot of the work that's being done now, which is, oh, everybody's picking up a camera and shooting their own kids in their own house. And I think we've all seen a lot of the press that in those first several weeks, you know, up until, I mean, it's still today, that the COVID-19 messaging is all very similar. Same piano track, same, you know, we're all in this together messaging. And I know that there's been some standouts that are starting to differentiate. And Keith, I think your team was a part of one that broke the mold a little bit on that.
Yeah, we did a Coors Light campaign that we had a lot of fun with and was really well received. It's called America Could Use a Beer. It started with, there was a social post that went viral of I believe a really like 70 or 80-year-old woman out in the Northeast who posted a photo that said she needed more beer, she needed more Coors Light. So they sent a truckload of beer to her, and we kind of felt like we've been going back and forth about what is the right thing for a big beer brand to be saying during this time. And that message was kind of a bit of the moment where it's like, maybe we should just give people beer. Like maybe that could be a fun little escape for people, particularly as a beer that's all about those personal kind of relaxation moments. So quickly, we love that idea, clients love that idea, and we really quickly went to writing a script and making something. And we did a lot of work in the craft in trying to make sure that this thing looked and felt different, and just also had a tone and point of view that felt appropriate. You know, we had Paul Giamatti do the voice, which is such a unique, snarky, complainy, but kind of serious voice to use for something. And visually, we didn't want to just do strung together stock footage and images, because again, as you mentioned, there's so much of that out there. So we found archival footage, both from stock sources and things that existed within the Molson Coors archives. We worked with Angus Wall over at Elastic and put together kind of a really unique visual cinematograph type piece. Just talking about how, hey, throughout times there have been tough times, and we've always got through it. And beer has played a part in that. So everybody should have a beer. So we made it kind of a social call to action. So, hey, somebody that you know going through something that could use a beer, let us know and we'll send them a free case of beer. So fun, interesting, not overly serious, but just acknowledging that, hey, this is kind of sucky. So maybe there's a little something we can do to brighten people's spirits. And it was fun, it was interesting. We had maybe 9 or 10 days of production to turn that thing around. So you can imagine it was kind of a mad dash to get that thing out the door. But ultimately it was very well received, you know, and it's really tough to thread the needle of like, what can we do, but also like, what should we do? And that felt like one that we felt really good, kind of, we nailed on all cylinders and felt really good about it. Consumers, as I said, lots and lots of free beer given out. People really happy for beer as we deal with what we're dealing with.
We're getting several people on the chat asking if you will send them a case of beer. So I'll get you all the names.
Send me your hardships and I'll nominate you all.
So segueing into that, are you guys seeing a change in briefs coming forward? You know, obviously COVID messaging was the big thing out the gate, and now we've all been here for a while, sadly. So is there a change in any of the briefs and the asks coming forward that you're seeing on your end?
So I think there's, some fatigue of the initial response, so I think people, and it makes sense that the idea is still the most important thing, right? And I think that just gets clearer and clearer that if the idea is important, and I think our executions may stay sort of stripped away for a while. Maybe that's a good thing. And I think our clients are asking for those kinds of things. You know, if you're a steward of our brand, stay that. And if, we talked about this earlier. If you're supposed to be funny, maybe you should stay funny. And if you have the right to play in that space, you should continue to. And I think our clients see that. And again, the arc of how we've been in the past couple of weeks really does represent that. So that's what I'm seeing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot more from the standpoint of planning. It's like there's the now, there's the near now, and then there's the future now, and as we're thinking about how we're going to like tackle messages in each one of those periods of time, everything's changing dramatically. And there was a time where we had just shot a bunch of stuff for one of our clients, Kingsford, a week before everything shut down, and we just had the bag, so we've had to pivot and like think about how we look at it through the lens of today, and what all the social distancing and masks and things like that are going to mean for how we shoot and bring things to life and all that kind of stuff. But I think, someone hit on it. The more we can stay true to who we were as a brand and who are as a brand, the more honest that can be, the better off we're all going to be in this world, and just make sure that it's respectful. But a lot of looking into the future, a lot of trying to, read the crystal ball, what's it going to be? How can we be there when things open up and lighten up? And, what can we do now to make it better?
Well, I think we see like the reflection of how we're all feeling, where the spots were looking the same because that's what we had to say. And now as this, as strange as it is, we're getting to know what our pace and our flow is, then we can look back to humor and look back to bigger ideas. Like you said, that the global community is getting a little more comfortable with, though there's still the sort of pale of the serious situation. So it's striking a balance between like people are hungry for, all the music and all the comedy and all the creativity. We need it, as a society to, and so I think that's reflecting back in the work as just like how our own creatives are feeling, and then how, we need to reflect that out.
Right. It seems like right now we're all working from the same creative brief. It's just that it's tailored differently for our brands, and obviously, but it would be humor and and Coors, and of course. But right now for us, we're given our target, we're very much in that very serious situation right now.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just super easy for people to fall back into in these unprecedented times. You know, it's just, that's
Oh,
where
I know.
it goes. It's like, you know what? Yes, they're unprecedented, but that's, you know, when, you know, I think it was Burger King who first broke out with a bit of humor that was like so appropriate and so right at the moment. I thought, you know, they took who they were and what they were about and crafted that message in a way that was like funny and made me laugh, but still didn't lose the seriousness of the moment, you know. And I think that's a stellar example of showing up how you are, where you are, and in the right way. I mean, I think the progressive work, working from home spot is brilliant. You know, it's a mirror on how we're all looking and feeling right now, but comes right out of the heart and soul of what that brand is all about. You know, the Oscar Mayer stuff that we did, I think, is all about, you know, what the heart and soul of that brand is about, and had a right and a reason to show up in that time and place. And I think that's what we're looking for in all of the briefs, you know, to make sure that it's genuine and real and honest and true, you know.
If I ever see the words more than ever, it will be too soon.
Yeah.
The brands who have a strong identity, the brands who already have defined themselves and have a strong ethos and know who they are the ones who are best equipped to handle, you know, whatever comes. And in this case, it's this crazy epidemic that we're dealing with. But those brands are then poised to kind of tap into who they are and be themselves. And then, you know, you see that obviously. Burger King's a great example. You know, Apple with their creativity spot, which has always been what they've been about. And in this time when we're all at home, tapping into that kind of finding creativity when you're homebound was a beautiful way of executing it. And so I think brands that are already defining themselves and have a clear version of themselves are able to quickly respond to anything and something like this. And as long as they stick to themselves, and you're right, the humor brand should do humor. It's just a question of, as in everything with comedy, it's a question of timing. So you got to wait a little bit. I mean, you remember after 9/11 when everyone was waiting for a late night host to make a joke, and David Letterman was kind of the first to do it, and everyone exhaled and said, okay, we can laugh again. And I think there's that kind of, you need that, but he had the right to do that. He had built up that equity with viewers, and Burger King has done the same with their audience, and they were able to come out and make that appropriate joke at the appropriate time, and others follow suit.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to just say, you know, I feel like our Wendy's came out with just the stripped down green screen. Like in normal times, we'd have, you know, fancy voiceover and this and this. And I feel like they found their voice in that moment to say, like, look, we're here, we're still sending this out. And it broke through just, you know, even visually to say, like, here's a little look behind the curtain. We can't make this fancy. We're still, you know, we're still here. So I really appreciate when, to your point, when a brand really sticks to their voice during this time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pivot. We have a lot of questions, Craig. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to just throw out, I mean, we're getting a lot of questions, and Lisa and I have been texting back and forth here about unions and stuff like that. I think we both agreed just now on our text exchange that we're probably going to need to do another panel to do more of a deep dive into that. This isn't really the greatest panel for that. But one of the questions, actually Christine hit upon it, and this might be a tough one for everyone, but I'm getting many of the Post members saying, you know, how can we as independent Post companies compete against the in-house? Because, you know, we've seen, obviously everybody's trying to keep as much money in-house as they possibly can, but are there things that we could do? Or are there things that, you know, that you're missing? Or, you know, obviously, you know, in-house has been here, but I just would be really curious to hear, you know, your opinions on that.
But real quick, I just want to say the reason why we cut it internally was literally that we didn't have a dime. We didn't have a budget. So that was the reason. Otherwise, believe me, I would have called, you know, 5 editors to help us out with this. But so I think things will go back to normal. I really do.
Yeah.
It's just that right now for what we were doing, it made the most sense.
Yeah.
And I think, Craig, I think the answer is complex, right? So it is, some of it's financial, but I think what our partners in Post always offer is a diversity of talent. And, I echo Christine's sentiment that's, I don't know that can be replicated. And I think that we all talked earlier about the synergy that happens in a room, and the more voices heard from create more and plentiful collaboration. So I think if you want an answer, stay that course, right? You're all super service oriented, and it's appreciated. And the reason all those balls we talked about aren't dropping is because you guys aren't dropping them. Right. So if that answers it, that's.
I mean, for me, Steve can attest to this. I've never been a proponent of forcing my creative teams to work in an in-house studio. I've always felt like we need to hire the right talent, and those guys need to earn that job. And thanks to Steve, he built that in a way that is true and right. And they are talented people, and I have absolutely no problem with them tackling a job, but they need to earn it first, and that's the same with you guys. You the guys need to go out there and show me what you can bring to the party. And clearly over the last, few months, that's happened, so to me, it's always about how do I get the best work for my client, and it's using the best tools. And if that's in-house, I will use it. And if it's outside, I will use it. I don't really care,
I like that analogy of kind of different tools in a toolkit, and that there's many ways to solve these problems. And there's always going to be pros and cons to working in-house versus work at an external studio. But I think we always try to look at things really, what is best for this job creatively. Nobody cares about how the sausage was made, but they will care, what this thing is and what this final product looks like. And we try to drive for what we think is going to make the best final product. Sometimes there are challenges, there's schedules, there's conflict, there's budgets, but we try to make what's best for the work happen, using, as Kurt said, all the different tools in our toolkit.
I would love to walk downstairs every day and just be done. It's really easy for me. Well,
we love that too, brother.
Yeah. Right.
I'll also say I've worked on some case studies. I've worked on some case studies with our partners that I'm sure they wish we would have taken in-house. So maybe a double-edged sword sometimes.
Be careful what you ask for, right?
So another sort of trick. I'm sorry, Lisa, just doing the chat. And I think you can speak to this one as well. We're getting lots of questions about budgets and, how are the budgets? Do we feel like, while doing this, are these budgets going to carry over? Are we teaching people that we can do it less expensively? Therefore, this is going to stay with us. Again, these are chat room questions. These are not my questions. That's what I'm So, but what have you seen on budgets? I think it's a really important thing for all of us. I think we'd love to hear what your clients are thinking. And again, I know we're not into production yet, or full on production, but I'll just throw it to the group. What are you guys seeing?
I'll say I've seen the gamut for quick turn, UGC that we're getting and turning around to exploring some celebrity properties or, so I think it just kind of like it's been before. There's going to be the gamut depending on the brand and depending on the need and the, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really been a very broad spectrum, I'd say.
I've yet to see one client say that because we're in this situation, I feel like I can spend less money. Okay, no one has said that to me. So
you might be unique, Kurt. You might be unique. I'm not sure.
I'm just saying I'm not going to go into what clients are asking me to spend. That's for sure.
Come on. No, I'm just kidding. But
it depends on the brand. And as Kurt alluded to in an earlier question, some brands are really struggling during these times, and some are doing much better because of the situation, because of the kind of brand they are. For me, my brand isn't hit as hard as a lot of other brands, and so the budgets are still there, and they're still willing to spend what they've always spent. That stay-at-home thing that the chairman, that was $1 million spot. Just kidding.
$250,000 a book.
Yeah, right. No, but they are willing to spend. They're still coming with the same budgets. To the question of will those who have found out that they can do things cheap and do things fast, will they expect that? Is that the new norm? I question that too. That's a question I have. And I fear that we are, setting precedents as we often do in production, that we can get things done. And then the expectation is that we do that every single time. So I think we need the collaboration of everybody at the agencies, the account people, the clients, everyone to understand that some of these things we're doing out of necessity. It's not necessarily the right way to do it or the best way to do it. It's the only way to do it at this point. But when normalcy returns to some degree, I sure hope we get a little more time than 3 days to turn around a spot, or a week to turn around a spot, or a little more money than some brands are getting comfortable spending. But that's gonna be a collective effort.
I feel like cheaper, faster already was the new norm.
Right.
There may be a rebalancing of costs, because if clients aren't coming and they're not staying at the Four Seasons for a week, or because they're going to have to pay for other things like more time to get wardrobe and collect things and make the set safe and paced out lunches, and so there's going to be more hours potentially, or more shoot days. So really putting more in front of the camera is really going to be a necessity.
Yeah,
It's $more better spent. Yeah.
I'm definitely finding that our ROI is coming to the forefront of a lot of production conversations. There used to be some set of standards in terms of, here's kind of what we're shooting, here's roughly what that costs. I think I'm finding myself much more regularly on a project by project basis having conversations about what is the value this kind of has to the brand. Is this going to have a large impact? Is this kind of a small filler type messaging? And a lot of times the level of importance or the level of return will kind of dictate the level of investment they're willing to make, or even the recommendations that we'll make. We're not going to recommend a $1 million production for clients with a tight budget with something that's just going to be a little splash in the pan. If it's something a little bit bigger, like giving, the United States a beer, that's a much larger message. And I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about, we have to make sure this message is received right. And that's going to come with some production value. You can only cut budget so much without compromising on what it is you're delivering.
Yeah, I think that we've been talking about sort of like, just because you can do it, should you? And I think people's fatigue with seeing a very limited production value. I think the conversations that we're having that are, behind the screen or behind the scenes conversations will help us, because I think we'll be poised to say, look, the fidelity for this work needs to be, higher based on this message. And to your point, Keith, that some of the stuff may not need to be. I think the conversations we're having with clients now will help in that, so the horribilization of now we have to do everything, for what we're doing for now will be well served, as we continue to have those conversations. I hope.
We're getting lots of questions about, have you had any conversations with your clients? This one's from Mary Caddy. Will clients adjust their budgets to account for the additional costs that will be required due to COVID? Obviously with the sanitation and, I'm sure Lisa can speak to, this probably, with all of the AICP guidelines, but I'm just curious, because I think those conversations do need to start, because it's gonna change. Even in the post-production world, we're talking about, a lot of things that we're gonna need to do to make our facilities safe and make our, employees feel safe. So anyone want to field that question?
Nope.
I can take it to start.
It's not Kurt's job to have those conversations. He's the creative guy.
Yeah. He was really enthusiastic to just be the expert on that kind of stuff on this call. I think that, and this is just really my personal opinion, one of the shoots that we were about to go into, the world shut down right before then. And now here we are still talking to that same client about how we can change that creative, what it was going to be then, what it should look like now. And to be fair, I think I quoted this to Melissa the other day, like it was, a day for a 30-second spot. And now that whole job is going to be a 2-day shoot now per 30-second spot. But the difference is that things have just changed, right? So like my crew is much smaller now, much more streamlined, but certain things are going to take longer. I'll just be honest, I think locations is going to be a thing when we start. Certain people are not going to want us in their homes or in their offices. They're just not. So believe me, I know from AICP Midwest, our locations folks are already on it. They are talking to their folks who already in the past were in their files as being willing to shoot there. So there will be options. We may be more limited, which may mean that we need a little more time to kind of dig through to find the perfect place. So certain things will take more time, but like Melissa said, maybe all the clients aren't traveling in for a week, you know, and whatnot. So I think that things, although they will be more expensive, hopefully there will be a little bit of an evening out with some of the stuff that we're not doing. Sure, I had a 2-day shoot, but I have a smaller crew, which maybe some of the crew members, you know, will want to hear about that on our next panel. But I think that we're going to do our best to just keep everyone safe. And that's first and foremost, as far as the size of the crew and how long it takes. We're going to be realistic. And I think until we get out there with these bigger crews, quite honestly, we're not going to have the answers. I said that at the onset. We don't have the answers to everything, unfortunately.
I think the most important thing we can do right now, because we can't answer that, is to take our clients along on the journey. I'm sure everyone on this has given many one-on-ones. And I think, you know, we've given a few one-on-ones about the state of production during COVID, and clients' ears perk up. And I think that talking about the transparency we've had with clients and that everybody's in the same situation, that we just have to keep informing them that, you know, it's a learn as you go right now, and so that there aren't any surprises at the end of this road, because, you know, that's all we can offer them. But I think taking them along and informing them and sharing this kind of information with them and the options is just a really important part of what we can do right now.
Yeah, I mean, our contingency plans have contingency plans. So, you know, and that's fine. But I think we have to be super transparent about it. And we don't know, you know, the way we're going to get stuff done, I think is changing every few days, whether it's globally, whether it's here, you know, what we have to be prepared for. And I think it keeps getting better. You know, we've talked about like the work's gotten better in the past several weeks. And I think we'll be able to get better at it. So it's just, but I don't think we know today what it's going to be like next week in all the states and in all the countries that we're doing work in. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've had some questions about, have you had any communication, you know, with your agency, with you know, the folks about when you see like your teams and people coming back into the office? Is there been any discussion of that, and how are you planning to do it? I think it would be very important for, you know, agencies and facilities and, you know, production companies to share all the information about, okay, what are we doing to make, you know, our employees feel safe and make our, you know, clients feel safe. So has there been any chat? Do you guys have any sort of time frames? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but just asking.
Yeah, of course we're chatting. Of course we're having those discussions, you know. But again, we're going to follow. We're not going to lead in that regard, you know, because all of these decisions have such long tails. You know, it's like we talk about, you know, staggering people. You know, certainly nobody's coming back all at once, you know, and then what are the right people to bring back, and in what order and what fashion and that sort of thing. But the reality is, you know, people have concerns about, you know, commuting. You know, are they going to get on a train? They're going to get on a bus? They're going to bike to work? How are they going to get there? You know, it's like when they get to the office and they walk through the lobby, elevators and all that sort of stuff. There's just so many like things that like kind of like ripple out from every single scenario and every decision that we've been discussing, that it's a little difficult to get our hands on it. But, you know, ultimately the goal right now is to, you know, get back in the office and work as teams. But I got to tell you, Teams is working, you know, Zoom is working, you know, and in some ways there's positive pieces of that because the day is a little bit more structured, you know, and you kind of get things done in some ways. So I think we're going to take the benefit and the best of both of those worlds and see how they live together. But, you know, I don't even want to venture a guess in front of 500 people about when McGarry Bowen is going to be like back in, you know, downtown. There's just too many things to think about.
Yeah. Oh, it's a fair answer. You know, I just, yeah, I don't know. I think everybody does want to know, and I think we are all prepping to continue to work remotely as long as we need to. I think that's just the, you know, the name of the game right now. So.
Yeah, and jumping on that, I've seen several questions about when can we shoot again? When can we shoot again? You know, like I said at the onset, if some of you missed it, I am going to be a part of a task force for both the city and state about when we can get back to work here safely. And that will include union heads, the folks working on the TV shows. We are all going to be collaborating together to make sure that when we come back safely. And the city and state will, I mean, thank goodness Governor Pritzker and the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, have been on top of it. I really feel like that, and we are very lucky to be in this state. So they are going to make sure that when we come back safely and that we do it in a safe manner. So like I said, we don't have the answers today, but we will. And I think a lot of you have been asking about, well, where can you shoot safely? You know, literally day by day, different countries are opening up and saying that you can shoot there. You know, Czech Republic, Canada is starting to allow it, Iceland, you know, there's numerous others. And I think if you do a little Google searching, you will see in the States, I have mentioned this at the onset, I think South Dakota is the only one like raising their hand saying, hey, we're giving out permits, come here and shoot. But other states are starting to open up, Florida, Texas. And it's it's very slow. No one's also in those states saying, oh yeah, we're giving out permits. But is everyone talking about it in every state? They are, and it's starting to come out. Oregon came out with guidelines today for coming back to production. So, you know, I'll be working, and the AICP will be working with the union heads, with the city, with the state, and we'll come back when we can come back, much like, you know, we don't have the answers, like we don't have the answers when people can be sitting back in their offices downtown either. So hopefully soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're still.
I wasn't following the most recent questions.
No, we're still getting in like a lot of questions about like the tax credit and about like unions and things like that. And like I think that that's going to be another Zoom, because those are going to be very, very deep dives. I know most of these folks probably don't want to answer, don't know how, you know, have any interest in answering those questions.
Yeah.
So.
We'll have a different panel, quite honestly, with some of the experts, some of the union heads, probably Kwame, if he's listening, or Peter from the Illinois Film Office and the Chicago Film Office, to answer those kind of questions. We will be having that panel within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I don't have a date yet, but we're working on it. I want to get our task force meeting first, and then we'll have some more solid information for you after that. But I promise you, as AICP Midwest, we will do that, and we will try and answer your questions. Let's jump to some fun stuff at the end here.
We are running out of time. I'm getting several texts say, Marcy saying, let's go, let's close this up. So yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
All right, let me find my fun questions. You know, I think we talked a lot about at least creativity and the fun campaigns we've seen out there. You know, anything that stuck with you. I feel like we kind of touched on a lot of them. Is there any that we missed that during this time that anybody wanted to kind of like hallmark, like, wow, they did a really great job?
I want to talk about one thing that my agency did for our client, Lee Jeans, which is a newer brand to us. And they created an Instagram where independent artists, musicians, a hat maker, makeup people could do post on the platform, and actually you can Venmo them to support their art or their craft or their whatever. So, you know, we're vetting these folks, making sure there's nothing proprietary. And I just think it was a way that a brand that, you know, it wasn't necessarily on a, you know, front lines, really reached out to do something to sort of help some folks out there that weren't working. And there's some really great songwriters and artists and all kinds of different folks on there. So check it out on Lee.
Okay.
Right. Cool. Will do. I like the CVS stuff that's out there in real life. We didn't do it, so apologies to my bosses. But but I thought it was great. I thought it looked beautiful. It worked for the idea really well, and I thought the execution was really nicely done.
Yeah, I feel like the way they executed that was very COVID, but the end result was not.
Correct.
And I think that's the key, right? It's like they found a way around it without it looking like it could only run in this period of time. It was so smart and so, really just how they pulled it off. I mean, that's the key. It's like we're making work now that may run 6 months from now. What does that look like? And that's the hard part. How do you make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did it.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I really like I think there was a Facebook spot recently, the Martin Dutour shot called Born in Quarantine. And it was the one narrated by a woman born during the Spanish flu. And I just thought, like, what a really beautiful way to take a lot of pieces that we've been seeing consistently, but telling a really kind of powerful and unique story. And I think when I first saw it, the first few frames, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. And then as it continues, I start kind of like feeling some things, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this is actually a really kind of powerful piece. So I think it's great and inspiring to see what, the best creative minds in the world are able to do, even with a limited toolkit. We can still tell amazing, beautiful stories. I think of that as inspiration for all the things we can continue to do as we work through this.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last time we were together. It's like, it's about the bright side, the silver lining of all of this is it's going to get us back to the quality of the idea, right? It's going to get us back to focusing on what differentiates us and what's the smartness of that thought versus how do we cover things up in production, as much. How do we bring? So I think there is a silver lining there, and I think you're right. That's a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's a great question. So, but like Lisa said, I think we covered it a little bit earlier as well. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. What are you looking forward to doing? Let's pretend that like someone keeps saying that maybe it's just going to disappear one day and COVID will not be a thing.
Going to Shaw's, come on.
Nobody's happier than my CFO right now with my Shaw's bill. It's been way down.
Live music, I miss being in a sweaty club, seeing live music. And sports. I mean,
Wrigley Field, no doubt. Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
I miss movie theaters. I hope they're able to survive the storm. There's just something special about sitting in a theater, seeing a really interesting story. It's a unique experience, and I hope those don't go away.
Yeah.
Very true. I've been ordering food from my theater just to try and keep them going.
I miss being without a hat. I think I may never take it off again, but
Yeah. So the last question that I had was, what's been your go-to drink during quarantine? I definitely feel like I've been drinking nonstop, unfortunately, which is not that big of a, whoa, there we go, Gail. Not that big of a stretch for me, anyone that knows me. But so go around the horn. Christine, what's been your go-to drink?
Mine's been my Cosmopolitan Quarantini.
Okay, wow, that's pretty fancy. All right. Okay, Melissa?
Well, let's just say I opened rosé season earlier this year.
Yeah, good. Mr. Ross?
It's either a Guinness or a Lagavulin. It depends on my mood. Depends how hard the day's been, I guess.
Okay. Keith?
My wife got tired of all the light beer that we'd had around the house to support our clients. So recently we've been doing quite a bit of mezcal and having some fun with some mezcal cocktails.
Yeah, that's dangerous stuff, man. Be careful. Yeah. Kurt?
I think there's been enough change in my life, so I'm just sticking with my Miller Lights.
Good enough. Gail? And we saw the Tito's.
I showed you mine, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Yeah, I've become a wine drinker, a wine connoisseur through this. So it's never was a wine person, but I'm trying not to weigh 30,000 pounds when this is over. So I've given up beer a little bit. one comment that we did get on the chat that I thought was kind of fun, which I don't agree with. It said that Steve Ross never ages except for in his beard. I just want to throw that out there.
All right.
Lisa, what's your go-to drink?
Were you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm a Tito's gal, like Gail, and I've just been expanding my wine selections, kind of going off the grid to things that I normally don't drink. So it's been fun every week, new wines.
All right.
Can I say just one kind of off-topic thing as we start to wrap this up?
Yep.
Just kind of commenting a little bit on the state of how we've been working. I know as an executive producer, like a lot of times I love having all the answers and I love knowing how to solve all the problems and knowing what's going to happen. I think with the day-to-day updates that we've been getting, you know, I've really had to adjust the way that I work. You know, it's almost like I'm an associate where I'm not willing to commit to anything until I talk to some of our, you know, trusted partners like you guys, Lisa and Craig, about, hey, where are we? What can we do? What's possible? And it's been a real shift in style. And I'm seeing a lot of the questions and there's a lot of what can we do? What can't we do? You know, and I think we're going to have to start working just much more closely with our production partners every step of the way so that we can be providing the most up-to-date information and answers to clients. Because again, what's true today is likely not going to be true tomorrow. You know, and I think if we try to solve all of that of ourselves, we're not going to have the most accurate information, you know, and we're not going to be able to push the way that we need to without the support of our partners. So just a comment that I'm sure a lot of people already know, but I think it's just helpful to think about the way we are working and the way we should work to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Agreed.
All right. Lisa, I'm being told we have to wrap her up. So
Okay. Well, I was
take it
just
away.
gonna say, Craig, or Keith, one of your questions was just about taking that with us. I mean, I think oddly, we're all separate now, but I think at the agencies, I'm hearing from everybody that you're collaborating more. I know Craig and I talked about it. With our teams, we're collaborating more. As production companies, all of us and post companies collaborating more. And I think that's to the betterment of all of us as we move forward. And thank you guys so much for showing up today, our panelists. We greatly appreciate it. All of you out there who tuned in, I apologize that the invite might have said we were going to talk for 2.5 hours, but that's really too long. It was supposed to be 1.5 hours. And I apologize that we couldn't answer all the questions. For those who've asked, we are sending a little recording. Sorry, panelists, I may not have told you that. But for people who couldn't join this afternoon, they can see that. And we will be in touch with all of you about future events. So thank you. AICP is here to help you out.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you guys for hosting.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody stay safe.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.